Have you ever noticed how INFJs seem calm, kind, and almost too gentle on the surface, yet people still keep their guard up around them? There's a reason for that. While most personality types are easy to read, INFJs are like an enigma. Soft-spoken but deeply powerful in ways that most people can't quite explain. They see through lies, they sense hidden motives, and they hold an inner strength that makes others uneasy, even if they don't admit it. People often underestimate INFJs because they appear reserved, empathetic, or even fragile. But beneath that calm exterior lies a depth of perception, emotional intelligence, and quiet authority that can completely disarm those who try to control or manipulate them. And that's exactly why so many secretly fear INFJs without ever saying it out loud. In this video, we're going to break down the 8 reasons people are secretly intimidated by INFJs, from their razor-sharp intuition to the way they can detach completely when someone crosses the line. By the end, you'll not only understand why INFJs are feared, but also why this hidden power is what makes them one of the rarest and most fascinating personalities in the world. So, stay with me until the end because reason number 8 may just explain why some people disappear from an INFJ's life without warning. And before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our deep dives into the psychology of INFJs. Dark psychology of INFJ intuition, seeing through masks. When people talk about intuition, they often imagine it as a vague gut feeling, but for INFJs, it's much sharper than that. It's almost like X-ray vision into someone's soul. While most people listen to what's being said on the surface, INFJs pay attention to the subtle layers underneath. They catch the shift in someone's tone, the hesitation between words, or the fleeting glance that doesn't match the smile. This ability to see through masks unsettles people because it feels invasive, even though the INFJ isn't trying to pry. Imagine trying to hide disappointment or jealousy, only to feel that the INFJ across the room already knows. It makes people nervous because they realize their carefully built facade won't hold up under INFJ scrutiny. And here's the kicker: INFJs don't always reveal what they've picked up. Sometimes they stay silent, letting the other person expose themselves over time. That quiet awareness is terrifying to manipulators, liars, and anyone who thrives on pretense. It's not just about spotting lies, though. INFJs also sense hidden motives. Someone might be overly friendly, but the INFJ feels the undertone of control or competition. Another person might claim indifference, but the INFJ detects longing or resentment behind the words. This insight creates an almost supernatural aura, as if they're reading thoughts instead of just observing behavior. For many, this is why INFJs are secretly feared. People don't like to be truly seen because it strips away their control. With an INFJ, you can't keep the mask on forever, and that's what makes their intuition one of their most powerful and intimidating traits. Dark side of INFJ accuracy, reading emotions too well. One of the reasons people secretly fear INFJs is their uncanny ability to read emotions with almost surgical precision. While most people can sense when someone's off, INFJs go deeper. They don't just notice the broad strokes of sadness, anger, or excitement. They pick up the layers of emotions happening all at once. For example, an INFJ can look at someone who's smiling and immediately detect that beneath the cheer, there's exhaustion or disappointment. They don't need words. They feel it in the energy and body language. This can be deeply unsettling for others because most people work hard to hide how they really feel. With INFJs, those defenses rarely work. This emotional radar is powerful, but it's also intimidating. Imagine being around someone who knows you're insecure about your job, even though you've told everyone you're fine, or someone who sees through your confidence to the self-doubt you never admit. INFJs aren't trying to expose you, but the fact that they could makes people feel vulnerable. It's like being emotionally undressed without permission. Even more frightening for some is how INFJs use this gift. They don't always call it out directly. Instead, they quietly adapt their behavior around what they sense. They may withdraw from someone hiding anger or show kindness to someone hiding pain. This makes others feel both cared for and powerless at the same time, because when someone sees too much of you, you lose the ability to fully control how they perceive you. And this is why INFJs can be both magnetic and terrifying. Their emotional accuracy makes people feel truly seen, but also deeply exposed. Few people are comfortable with that level of transparency, which is why many secretly fear what an INFJ might pick up the moment they enter the room. Their calm demeanor hides intensity. On the surface, ENFJs often appear calm, collected, and even gentle. They rarely raise their voices, they avoid unnecessary drama, and they tend to move through life with an aura of serenity. But beneath that calm exterior lies an intensity that most people never see coming. And that's exactly why others secretly fear them. INFJs aren't calm because they lack strong emotions. They're calm because they've learned to contain those emotions. They feel things more deeply than almost anyone else, but instead of letting it spill out uncontrollably, they internalize and process it. This makes their stillness almost deceptive. People mistake their quiet for passivity, not realizing that under the surface is a storm of observation, analysis, and conviction. When that hidden intensity finally shows, it shocks people. A friend who has always seen the INFJ as patient and understanding may suddenly encounter their sharp honesty or even cold detachment. A partner who thought they could push boundaries discovers the INFJ's breaking point, and that once crossed, there is no return. The contrast between their calm exterior and their inner fire makes their reactions all the more unsettling. This hidden intensity also manifests in their drive. INFJs can appear laid back, but when they set their sights on something, they pursue it with relentless focus. They may work in silence for months, saying little about their goals, and then suddenly reveal extraordinary results. To others, it seems like these achievements came out of nowhere, but in reality, the INFJ's quiet determination was there all along. And that's what unnerves people, unpredictability. When someone is calm on the outside, but intense on the inside, you can't fully gauge what they're capable of. You never know if their patience is genuine, forgiveness, or if it's the calm before they walk away for good. You don't know if their silence is agreement, or if it's them analyzing every word you say. This uncertainty gives INFJs an almost mysterious power, one that people respect and quietly fear. They hold people accountable silently. One of the most unnerving aspects of INFJs is how they hold people accountable, not with loud confrontations or dramatic ultimatums, but through silence and consistency. Unlike most people, who might explode in anger or argue when betrayed, INFJs rarely waste their energy in conflict. Instead, they take mental notes, quietly observing patterns of behavior and storing every inconsistency away. This makes others underestimate them until the day the INFJ finally acts. INFJs have an uncanny ability to notice when someone's actions don't align with their words. They don't always call it out immediately, but that doesn't mean they've missed it. Their memory for emotional inconsistencies is sharp, and they keep track of how people treat them, both the small slights and the major betrayals. And because they rarely shout or demand apologies, people assume they've gotten away with their behavior. But INFJs are simply patient, waiting to see if the other person corrects themselves. When they don't, the INFJ's accountability arrives in the most shocking way: withdrawal. Instead of arguing or trying to fix the relationship, they detach completely. They stop giving their energy, stop sharing their inner world, and sometimes they vanish altogether. This silent judgment is terrifying for people who are used to manipulating or controlling others. They expect conflict they can win, but instead they get silence. And silence is something they can't fight. What makes this silent accountability even more powerful is how final it feels. Once an INFJ has decided you've crossed too many lines, there's almost no chance of return. They won't announce it, they won't create a scene, but you'll feel the shift. Where once they offered empathy, they now give nothing. Where once they listened deeply, they now move on as if you no longer exist. This ability to hold people accountable without saying a word leaves a lasting impression. Many people walk away from an INFJ relationship never fully understanding what went wrong, only realizing too late that their actions had consequences. And that's why INFJs are quietly feared, because you can never be sure if their silence is forgiveness or the beginning of the end. Their withdrawal is more powerful than anger. When most people are pushed to their limits, they explode in anger. They yell, argue, or lash out, trying to make themselves heard. But INFJs, they do the opposite. Instead of raising their voices, they withdraw. And that withdrawal hits harder than any outburst ever could. Why? Because when an INFJ withdraws, it isn't a temporary reaction. It's a deeply intentional choice. They've already spent weeks, maybe months, analyzing the situation, giving second chances, and quietly hoping things would change. By the time they pull away, they're not just upset, they're done. And that finality is what makes their withdrawal so devastating. People who wrong an INFJ often expect confrontation. They think there will be an argument where they can defend themselves or manipulate the narrative. But INFJs refuse to give them that opportunity. Instead, they cut off the energy flow, they stop engaging, stop explaining, and stop giving emotional access. Suddenly, the person who once felt deeply understood and cared for finds themselves staring at silence, a silence that can't be reasoned with or broken. What makes this withdrawal even more powerful is the message it sends without words. I no longer value you in my inner world. Unlike anger, which still shows investment, withdrawal signals the INFJ's complete detachment. Anger can mean you still care, silence means you've closed the door. And for people used to being forgiven or tolerated, this sudden absence feels like the ground disappearing beneath them. This is why INFJ withdrawal is feared more than anger. It's not explosive, it's surgical. It cuts ties cleanly, leaving the other person confused, powerless, and often haunted by the sudden shift. While most people see withdrawal as weakness, INFJs wield it as their sharpest weapon, one that leaves a lasting impact long after they've walked away. They mirror back hidden truths. One of the most unsettling traits of an INFJ is their ability to act like a mirror, reflecting back to people the very truths they are trying to hide. While most personalities take words at face value, INFJs read between the lines. They sense the tension in your voice, the hesitation in your eyes, and the emotions behind what you don't say. Then, without even trying, they mirror those hidden truths back at you. For many, this feels almost invasive. Imagine trying to hide insecurity, jealousy, or dishonesty, only for the INFJ to quietly bring it to the surface through their presence. They don't necessarily call you out directly. Instead, their insights, questions, or even silence force you to confront what you've been avoiding. This is why so many people feel both drawn to and unnerved by INFJs. On one hand, it feels like finally being seen for who you are. On the other hand, it feels terrifying to have no mask that can truly protect you. The mirroring effect often happens in conversations that seem casual. A friend might laugh to cover up sadness, and the INFJ responds with unexpected depth, saying something like, "You don't seem as okay as you're pretending to be." That kind of piercing perception shakes people because they weren't ready for anyone to notice. Yet the INFJ noticed instantly. What makes this ability even more intimidating is how accurate it tends to be. INFJs rarely confront people without being certain. They've already observed patterns, felt the energy, and pieced together the puzzle. So when they finally mirror the truth, it's hard to deny. People who thrive on hiding behind charm or manipulation often find themselves disarmed because the INFJ won't buy into the act. And here's the paradox. This mirroring isn't about control or superiority. It's part of the INFJ's empathy and intuition working together. They don't want to expose you. They want to understand you. But for many, being understood at that depth feels like exposure. And that's exactly why INFJs are both feared and respected. They combine empathy with boundaries. One of the most misunderstood yet powerful aspects of the INFJ personality is how they blend deep empathy with firm boundaries. At first glance, people assume that being highly empathetic means being endlessly available, forgiving, and open. And while INFJs are known for their compassion, what shocks many is that they won't let that compassion become a weakness. They know when to step back, when to cut ties, and when to protect their own energy, even if it surprises or disappoints others. This combination is what makes INFJs so unpredictable. On the one hand, they can listen to your pain with more depth than anyone else. They'll notice the cracks in your voice, the heaviness in your body language, and the words you aren't saying. They'll support you with unconditional presence and make you feel profoundly understood. But here's the twist. If they sense that you're crossing their boundaries, manipulating their kindness, or draining their energy, they will detach in a heartbeat. That's when the same INFJ who once felt like your emotional anchor suddenly becomes unreachable. This balance of empathy and boundaries creates an almost paradoxical aura around them. People come close, thinking the INFJ will endlessly absorb their problems, only to be shocked when the INFJ quietly refuses to be taken advantage of. For manipulators, this is infuriating. They expect to control someone who feels deeply. For genuine people, it's inspiring. They see that it's possible to care without losing yourself in the process. What makes this so intimidating is the silence with which INFJs enforce their boundaries. They rarely shout or argue. Instead, they simply stop giving their energy to those who cross the line. One day you feel deeply connected to them, and the next, they're gone. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. And when that happens, people realize something crucial. INFJ empathy is a privilege, not a right. This ability to combine empathy with boundaries is what sets INFJs apart. It's why people both crave their presence and fear losing it. Because once an INFJ decides their energy is no longer safe with you, there's no way back. Their compassion has limits, and those limits are what make their empathy even more powerful. They are unpredictable when betrayed. If there's one thing people consistently underestimate about INFJs, it's how they respond to betrayal. Because INFJs are known for being calm, gentle, and deeply empathetic, many assume they will tolerate mistreatment, forgive endlessly, or quietly endure disrespect. And for a while, that might be true. INFJs often give second chances, try to understand the motives behind harmful behavior, and hold on to relationships longer than most people would. But here's the shocking truth. Once their trust is broken beyond repair, INFJs become utterly unpredictable. This unpredictability comes from the depth of their investment in people. INFJs don't form bonds lightly. They pour energy, time, and emotional presence into relationships that matter to them. So when someone betrays that sacred trust, the INFJ's reaction isn't just disappointment, it's devastation. And while most people expect them to quietly endure, what actually happens is far more unsettling. Sometimes the INFJ will go completely silent, cutting the betrayer off without explanation. Other times, they may expose the truth with surgical precision, calmly dismantling lies and leaving the other person shocked at how much they had seen all along. What makes this so intimidating is the element of surprise. People are used to predictable conflict, shouting, arguments, visible anger, but INFJs rarely explode outwardly. Instead, they retreat into an inner space of calculation, and when they finally act, it's swift, final, and impossible to undo. A partner who thought they could manipulate them suddenly finds themselves ghosted. A friend who assumed endless forgiveness is stunned by complete detachment. A coworker who underestimated them realizes the INFJ has already prepared a quiet but airtight defense. This unpredictability is not fueled by revenge, it's fueled by self-protection. Once betrayed, INFJs know they can never look at the betrayer the same way again. Their heart closes, their energy shifts, and their empathy is withdrawn. That's what makes their response so powerful and unnerving. You never know if they'll walk away without a word, or if they'll hold up a mirror to your actions in a way that forces you to confront the truth you've been avoiding. And here's the part that frightens people most. When an INFJ is done, they are done. There are no second chances, no dramatic reconciliations, no slow rebuilds. Their detachment is permanent. And once you've felt the intensity of their love or loyalty, the coldness of their absence feels like the harshest punishment imaginable. Now you can see why INFJs are both deeply loved and quietly feared. It's not about them being mysterious for the sake of it. It's about the way they move through the world with an intensity that most people can't match. Their intuition cuts through lies, their silence speaks louder than words, and their detachment carries more weight than anger ever could. And here's the truth most people don't admit. You can't predict an INFJ, and that's what unsettles everyone. They give you loyalty, depth, and empathy, but once you cross their line, they vanish without warning, leaving a silence that feels heavier than any fight. That unpredictability makes people respect them, even if they don't say out loud. But I want to hear from you. Have you ever been on the receiving end of an INFJ's silent strength? Or maybe you've been the INFJ who walked away without looking back. Share your thoughts in the comments because your stories help others feel less alone in theirs. If this video gave you clarity, don't just scroll away. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with me here on Brainy One because we're diving even deeper into the rare, powerful psychology of INFJs. You don't want to miss what's coming next.